Hey everyone, JJ coming back to you again for another Babbles. So this week's video, I figured I would talk about someone who's been a long time inspiration for me, drumming, and I've just kind of been inspired by him again in the last little while, and using him as motivation for myself to practice some new things and maybe add a few new tricks to the old bag, let's say. I am an old dog, but I am trying to learn new tricks. So this drummer, if you've seen the title, I'm speaking about Simon Phillips. And for anyone that's a student of drumming or watched any instructional videos, I'm sure Simon's name has come up in your research or your studies and things like that. Simon really needs no introduction in the drumming community and in the music world in a way. Just on a side note for me personally, there's high watermarks for musicians, and your Eddie Van Halen's and guitar, and everyone has these ideals of musicians for certain instruments. And in my opinion, I think Simon is, as far as drumming goes, he is just preeminent. He has no kind of he's got a lot of peers, but he has no one that really kind of surpasses him, in my opinion. He's just a master player, innovative in so many different ways when it comes to drumming, and being a musician. And if you're unfamiliar with Simon's kind of work, don't feel bad because, to be honest, the thing I know Simon best for are kind of his instructional videos and his clinics and his teachings. And you'd be hard pressed sometimes to recite a lot of recordings that Simon may have worked on because he's always been kind of I hate to say a sideman, but he's a session musician. And as far as kind of being in bands, I mean, most people, I guess, at this point would more know him for his tenure in Toto. After Jeff Porcaro died, Simon was called in to fill in that spot, and he played in Toto for 20 years, I believe. But once again, not a founding member of the band, and didn't record their best known material. But just a drummer of his capability was able to step into a situation like that. Playing with Steve Lukather and some of the other guys in that band, you need the best of the best kind of, and Simon definitely fit that that moniker for sure. Like I said, my introduction to Simon really was through there was an exposure without me knowing who he was, and then I found out most of the information and things about him through Modern Drummer. I've been a long time reader of the magazine, and Simon was constantly in there, whether it's an article about him, certain projects he's on, or if it's the section where they would readers would write in to ask him a question about something that he had done or some technique or something like that. And Simon's playing really intrigued me from the start because if you're familiar with how he plays, he's started out as a typical, probably right-handed drummer, I believe, and ended up switching over to playing open-handed. And essentially at this point, he's almost completely ambidextrous when it comes to drums. He tends to play hi-hat lead and ride cymbal lead with his left hand. But I mean, he's one of the most capable drummers in that regard, where there kind of is no lead in a way. He can just do anything almost with any limb, and his independence and stuff like that was really, I'd kind of not really been exposed to something like that. I was more in the realm of kind of hard rock drummers and things like that, and so There was a song from Jeff Beck called Space Boogie that was kind of Simon's calling card at that point. And so that was a song that I checked out, and it's like a, a double bass. It's like a shuffle, kind of up tempo and stuff like that. And it was kind of in the hard rock realm at that point. And so, I ended up developing a lot of respect for Simon just through that. And then eventually getting my hands on some of his instructional videos. There was a famous one that he put out in the 90s. And to say Simon is just like a wealth of information when it came to, back then it was hard to get information about drumming. And Simon's videos were just so eye-opening when it came to like tuning, and it came to technique, and it came to ideas, and, double bass and all this kind of stuff. And it was a different style than a lot of the heavy metal and things that I was really listening to. So it was kind of like some elements where maybe like Alex Van Halen would mix in big band with some of his rock drumming, and Simon had these other influences that were also mixing in with heavy metal and rock drumming, which was really cool. And then later on, after seeing all these things with him and Modern Drummer and seeing the videos and all this kind of stuff, I realized at one point I was reading the credits for the Judas Priest album Sin After Sin, and I honestly had no idea that Simon played on that. And at the time that album came out, there's the song Sinner and Dissident Aggressor are probably the two best known kind of songs off there, and Simon was playing double bass on some of those. And those are some of the earliest kind of implementations of double bass in heavy metal music. Somebody like probably Tommy Aldridge or somebody like that, likely Tommy when he was playing in Black Oak, Arkansas, was implementing a little bit of that stuff before Cozy Powell was coming around, at that time, and, in the Rainbow stuff. And so these guys were all kind of like, doing sort of the same thing at the same time. And it's just so interesting. If you see any interviews with Simon talking about that, I don't even think he was 20 years old at that point when he was being called in. And it's a really amazing kind of career that Simon carved out for himself. And also myself working as an audio engineer, I took a lot of inspiration from Simon because he was recording himself. He always had a home studio, and he's as knowledgeable about recording as he is drumming. And he was always getting these really, really amazing drum sounds. He's very well regarded in music and drumming as having some of the best sounding drums. And it's his tuning technique, and as far as just straight drumming goes, and drumming, not even bands or music that he was involved in. I don't know if I was ever inspired so much by just somebody drumming and not even really knowing the music that they played. Most of my, like I said earlier, most of my exposure to Simon was through his instructional videos and reading articles with him. And just, similarly to Neil Peart, who I spoke about in a video a while back, Simon is just a wealth of knowledge, and the way he's able to speak about drumming was just so inspirational to me as a young musician. I only wish I could articulate as well as he does, and about drumming and about kind of everything. He's a very knowledgeable person when it comes to most things music related. So, but yeah, I've been watching a lot of things with Simon lately because not that I've felt kind of stuck, but I just felt like it was a concept I explored when I was much younger, and and then I kind of got away from it as I tended to be just playing more or less in rock bands. But I've been working on more kind of open-handed playing and just working my left hand a bit more. I'm naturally right-handed, and it's my dominant hand, and it's just always like I never feel like I have to work that hard to keep the right hand's kind of limber and all that kind of stuff, but my left hand is a whole other story. So trying to lead more with my left and do this kind of stuff, it's been a very daunting task, because it's very humbling to not be able to play a song I've been playing for 30 years in the orthodox method of drumming, and to really struggle with it going with my left hand. And I used to set up a lot and practice a lot actually playing fully left-handed lead, left foot lead. And I messed around with that a lot as a younger drummer, and just kind of got away from practicing these things for dexterity and independence and things like that as I started playing more music. So it was hard to find practice time for a long time for me, and to kind of work on ideas like that was I didn't have the time when I would actually have time to sit at a drum set. It was every time I sat down was more playing music than it was really kind of working on ideas and different independence exercises and things like that. So as of late, it's been fun for me, and it's a bit humbling as well, we can say. But I think it's a worthwhile endeavor, and I see the musical. Just the open ideas and expression that come from having this just open posture where the toms are easily accessible in front of you while you have this. And I doubt that it would be, where I would ever move completely over to playing open-handed. But, it's been inspiring to watch guys like, Billy Cobham and, Simon. And there's a bunch of modern players as well that have kind of took that and run with it. And there's a ton of like Alex Rudinger, like all these guys, like these, I don't want to call them Instagram drummers, but the guys I'm talking about, and they just have this, there's no weak limb. And whether you're playing music that requires it or not, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to strengthen, or work on your weaknesses as a player. And it's been such a long time since I sat and dedicated practice to something that sometimes I've had forgotten, the feeling of kind of accomplishment that comes with, learning these new things and stuff. So it's been a good, hard but good, rewarding experience for me to kind of get back to a bit more practice. And I can thank Simon and watching him and realizing how much I have to learn and develop myself to ever hope to be a tenth of the kind of player he is. So if you're unfamiliar with Simon's playing, the best thing to do is just look at Simon's Wikipedia page, because as a session musician, he's been on just hundreds and hundreds of recordings and played with bands, Gary Moore and country bands and like world bands and, Toto and Judas Priest, and, he's all over the map. He has his own projects as well. He collaborates with a lot of musicians, and there's just so much material out there from him, and it's just none of it kind of maybe kind of breaks through the zeitgeist sort of thing. It's not on everybody's radar, but YouTube is a wonderful, way to see Simon as well. It's one thing to hear him play, but then when you watch and, the things that he's doing and what he's playing and how he's playing it, it's a whole other thing. So even if you're not a drummer and you're watching these videos, it's something to behold a musician of his caliber and watch them play. It's I do the same thing with guitar players and guys that are just virtuosos on their instruments. It's something to watch. If Simon Phillips hasn't been on your radar, I strongly encourage you to check him out. And I'm gonna keep slugging away down here in the dungeon and never get to Simon's level, but gotta keep trying. So this has been the one about Simon Phillips. Cheers.